You're listening to North Shore Now.
Welcome back to North Shore Now with your host, Jason Samel. I am your host, Jason Samel, and we are here with Deborah Orgel Gordon, a local small business owner and leading small business advocate and activist hailing from Glen Head. Welcome to the show, Deborah.
Hi, thanks for having me here. I'm very happy to be here.
Thanks for coming. Yeah, it's great. So tell us, what is a small business activist, and why have you chosen to dedicate so much of your life to helping small businesses thrive in our community?
Okay, so about 5 years ago, I opened a gift shop locally, and I noticed that a lot of people weren't aware that the shops were around the town.
Okay.
So I started becoming more aware that people weren't shopping local and ordering online.
Yeah.
But they would come in sometimes to ask for donations for the local businesses.
Always, right?
So I realized there was like something missing there. So I went out and I made sure by using social media to promote small businesses.
Okay.
To let people be aware of, we want to keep these small businesses.
Yeah.
We don't want to have empty storefronts.
Yeah.
Empty storefronts are ugly to have in our community. We want to make sure those storefronts are filled.
Yeah.
It helps us economically.
Sure.
And we also have to make people aware that those are the stores that are paying the taxes to our schools, giving the donations to our schools.
But
They're our neighbors.
But they don't get a chance to vote. What's with that?
Well,
did you? I mean, I've always.
It's according to if they own the building or not.
I know, right?
Yeah.
You could have a business that in a community that's thriving like crazy. It's adding to the community, but you don't get a chance to vote.
I don't understand it, because if you rent a house, you do get a chance to vote. So it kind of makes I agree with you. It would be good if they could. I
wish
vote.
we had a little bit more of a say in things.
Yes,
right?
Yeah, because you're also a fellow.
I am a fellow small business owner.
Yes.
Yeah. So you've dedicated a lot of your life to this. I mean, you're the president of the Small Business Association for Glen Head and Glenwood Landing. You run, how many Facebook pages are you administrator of?
I can't even tell you. There's so many of them.
There's at least like 30 or 40
I've actually
like
not that many, but
right.
But I was administrator of the Glen Cove Neighbors, which is about 9,000 now.
9,000
members in that group, yes.
Wow. That's the biggest one.
That's the
as
biggest
far as
one.
I know. That's the biggest
that started
one around,
4 years
isn't it?
ago. I was originally there from day one.
Did that start after Bill Moser's page started?
Yes.
Oh, it did.
But it's two different communities. So Glen Cove didn't have. They weren't in the name.
They weren't
Bill.
in the Bill Moser name.
That long name. Do you know that long name? Can you say it again?
I'm not saying it again. I wasted too much of my time last time saying it.
All right. So I was the original, I guess I can call it, in the Bill Moser group, which was that long name group.
Yeah.
And I was one of the first there.
Yeah.
And then somebody else decided that Glen Cove needed the same kind of thing. And they called it Glen Cove Neighbors, and they asked me to come on day one.
Yeah.
And we grew that into 9,000 members.
Huge.
And what I tried to do with that group is it
provides such a great service to our community.
Yes,
it really does.
Yes.
Yeah.
But people tend to stay on the computer and not meet each other. And one thing I implemented and made sure
that is a
was to
problem.
have happy hours and meetups. So I got everybody.
I've been to a few of those. They've been great.
So we got the community neighbors meeting neighbors.
Yeah.
Got them off the computers, because sometimes those groups can get a little
tiffy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very hard to be an administrator of those groups.
What makes it so hard? Tell me.
What makes it so hard is you can't please everybody.
You can't?
So, no, you can't. We try to, any group I'm administrator of, we try to keep it positive.
Yeah.
Some people call it dull, but I call not stirring the pot.
She's referring to Mr. Moser's speech just a couple of weeks ago on the air.
Yes. I don't call it dull. I call it neighbors getting along with neighbors.
Sure.
We want to be a community. We want to be positive. We want people to move into our communities. Do you ever wonder, I always thought about this.
Tell me.
What happens if somebody doesn't live in the neighborhood yet? Goes into one of these groups and sees these racist comments happening and stuff like that. Isn't it going to hurt? Like, people are going to be like, I don't know. I don't know if I should move to that town.
You're also a realtor, correct?
My husband owns a real estate company.
Your husband owns a real estate company.
He's
So from a real estate
broker.
perspective, I totally understand that. Obviously, you don't want a negative connotation put on the area that you live by some group that says some things that you don't agree with sometimes. But, huge but, right? I mean, half this country, or I mean, that's debatable, but half this country voted for a man named Donald Trump, right? And half this country actually believes, or maybe a third of the country actually believes everything that Donald Trump believes in, everything that Donald Trump stands for. Bill Moser's page, some would argue, puts a realistic, maybe more of a realistic reflection of what the community has in store. There's a lot of people from all different backgrounds that are part of the page. They're all arguing. They're all stirring the pot.
I don't know if I agree with that so much. I think your group is what the creator makes the group.
Okay.
So if you have a positive vibe, like I always believe in positivity over negativity, any group I've administrated has been going a little bit smoother.
Okay.
When an administrator is the main person who stirs the pot and tries to get reactions from everybody, then all the neighbors start fighting with all the neighbors.
Yeah, and well, that's not what we want.
And I don't want that. I want a community to be.
It's realistic of the real world, though, isn't it?
That people don't get along.
Yeah, it's sad.
It is sad, but I always like to think of the positive thing before the negative thing.
Yeah,
but I mean, I think I don't know. I just think
I like walking into that happy spot rather than that spot that you can. Maybe you're going to walk into and get some negative.
I mean, you don't want to wake up in the morning and you turn on your Facebook group and the first thing you see is something extremely negative and 500 comments and every neighbor is fighting with every neighbor and people going, I'm leaving the group, and then they're being happy the person's leaving the group. So
you've done wonderful things with your groups. You don't tell me sort of like the rules of your groups that make you guys different.
Well, so right now I administrate a different group. I've left Glen Cove Neighbors, but I administrated the Glen.
We're going to get to that in a minute because I got to ask you some questions about
if we have any minutes left.
Okay.
But
I'll make sure we do.
The main group I'm doing now is the Glenhead GWL, which stands for
Glenwood Landing. Sure.
Seacliff Community Group.
Okay.
And we have about 2,500 members. But I found
that was quick you built that.
Yeah, it got built quick, but I believe in quality over quantity.
Okay.
And so we're very, trying to make sure, and this goes back to some of the other groups. Some of the other groups have a lot of people that don't live in the town anymore, but they tend to like to keep voicing their opinions.
Okay.
Which I think clutters the groups.
So you try to stay away from that.
We try to have more of the local people living in the town.
Okay.
That's one of the groups I administrate now that are big. Of course, I run all the business association, the Glenhead Glenwood Business Association's page. We have a group.
Let's jump to that. So first of all, tell me about the association. I know you've been involved with the Glenhead Glenwood Landing Business Association.
It's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful.
Almost like that other group.
I know you've been involved in that for quite some time. You're now the president of it. When you started out, I think that there was maybe 30 or 40 members at most. Right. Now you guys are sitting at over, I think, 150, which is just incredible. Yes. Tell me about the association. Tell me about what you guys do, and tell me about what the path forward for the organization is.
Okay, so I came in there 5 years ago, as you said, and I found that they didn't have social media. They were not really emailing. So I brought people together to know more about it through the social media again.
They weren't emailing?
Very little. It was all like people that just didn't. They weren't sitting in front of the desk. They may have had jobs as like construction workers, so they're not sitting in front of a desk. So I kind of organized it to try to bring it back to its glory days, which I'm very proud that I did with about 150 members now. What we do is we meet once a month on the third Wednesday of the month from 6 to 8 p.m.
Okay.
And we do networking with the business owners.
Okay.
And we welcome neighbors to come to those meetings too.
Okay.
And at those meetings, we usually have one of the business speak.
Do you have to be a business owner in Glenhead or Glenwood Landing to be part of it?
Yes. Actually, you have to be either in Glenhead, Seacliff, Glenwood Landing, Glen Cove, Locust Valley, Greenvale, or Old Brookville.
Oh, so all of those areas are part of you.
Those. Okay. We don't like to take. We feel like it's more about the community, so we're trying to remain community because a lot of people in Glenhead do shop in Glen Cove, and Glen Cove is always coming to Glenhead.
Yeah.
So it's all the neighboring towns.
Okay.
We have a big event every year, which I started 5 years ago. It's going to be in its 5th year. It's the Farmers Market Local Business Showcase. And actually, WCWP did live there last year at our event.
Aren't we great?
So we thank you guys for coming and doing live.
Yeah.
And that event has brought communities together too, because nothing really happens in our community that much, because we don't really have like a main town in Glen Head. So it brings people to the downtown little area that we have, and everybody loves it because, you know, they can get together. Now, one of the things I made sure of this event, though, if you ever notice, a lot of the other events bring in people to sell goods from like Massapequa or other towns of all over.
It doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
Why
it's a members-only event, so you actually have to belong to the business association. It's a minimal fee to get a booth.
Okay.
And we promote local. So this is totally like local, because there's so many people that may not see a store, even though they pass it every day. They don't see it. Yeah. Here we bring all these places together, and we have 50 booths. Yeah. And we have food and music. That's great. WCWP Live. Maybe you'll do it next time.
We'll see. That's wonderful. And so, what future things does the business association have planned?
So right now we're working on our website. We're going to make it more aware. We're going to try to make it more neighbor friendly. Right now it's more member friendly. So we worked on a directory last year that got mailed out to the whole North Shore School District. So had the members were able to purchase ads for a very minimal fee, and we mailed it out to the district.
That's great.
So we're trying to build an email list with the neighbors now, so we can maybe do discounts for the stores and then email it out to the community. And then also the website will be more community friendly. That's great. There'll be ads on there, maybe coupons you can print out from the website.
That's great. That's wonderful.
From there. So
now, listen. I mean, in a world of Amazon, right? Can we really? I mean, Amazon and these big box retailers. I mean, it almost seems like sometime, and it's sad because I'm a small business owner, you're a small business owner, that like at some point the end is near for small business owners. I mean, it's so hard to survive these days. What can small business owners do? Can you give a couple of tips that maybe if small business owners can do to increase their revenues and maybe help get their name out there better?
A couple of businesses that are really thriving. It's very hard to have a storefront nowadays and just thrive on your storefront. So a lot of them are actually doing an online website too to sell their product.
Yeah. We can't beat online. We might as well join them, type thing.
Sort of, but then they can actually pay their rent because they can sell their product online. But they're also that's going to help our community, because then they're going to be able to stay within our community and have that that shop where great. Amazon doesn't have a storefront. I don't believe they have a storefront. They just have warehouses.
So. Yeah.
I mean, and just people have to be aware when you help your local business. Most of them actually live locally too, so they're your neighbor. They donate to every organization usually in school when they come and ask for a gift basket or whatever. And they actually hire local people, and it's also very good for our local economy to try to keep them there.
Awesome. So tell me. I know you're a little bit apprehensive about discussing this matter, but you were. Listen, Glen Cove Neighbors is a Facebook page, and it was like the biggest Facebook page. It's the biggest community Facebook page around, with almost 10,000 members. And you were an administrator of it for a long time.
Yeah,
Why'd you leave?
4 years.
What happened?
I left.
I mean, these were your buddies that you were doing this with.
I left for a few reasons.
Yeah.
I left because I personally didn't like. I felt that there was 4 administrators, and I felt the 4 administrators should work together and decide everything together. But it seemed like it was always leaning to the one person that ways of how things would go.
Okay.
That was one of the reasons. Okay. I felt anybody who has a Facebook group and feels that they have to control it by not having other administrators, as one group has only one administrator.
No, he's got
and his
3.
family.
Exactly. His wife and his daughter.
And anybody who just wants it always, possibly their way or no way is not a good way to run a group. It should be neighbors, maybe 5 or 6 neighbors running the group that have all different ideas and decide it together. So that was my one reason. The other one is takes over your life. And it can be very drama because the reason it can be drama is I can never be right all the time. And if somebody has to get thrown out of the group because they're they did something wrong, like really crazy wrong, and you have to throw them out, then you become a target. Yeah. So actually my small business Facebook page became a target.
When Queen becomes a target?
Yes, I've been a target, unfortunately, on Facebook. There's been numerous people who've my Facebook page for my business was attacked by people putting false reviews. Yeah, because were trying to get back to me and guess what? I was not the only one that decided that. It was that time it was the administrators together that decided to throw. But for some reason, the Queen, as you call me, the Facebook Queen, always seems to get in trouble.
Yeah. The Queen will do that, right?
But I'm very happy now because I'm my new group. The person I work with is Christopher Hole, and he is a great guy, and we've been friends since Actually, we met on Twitter,
cool.
and then now we've been friends doing this. So the Glenwood, Seacliff Community Group is the group to join right now.
Are you going to be? We only have a few minutes left, and I wanted to touch on this because I think it's just such an awesome thing that you created. Tell me about the Small Business Cash Mob.
Okay, the Cash Mob.
Such a cool thing.
I'll try to do this really quick. A quick description.
Yeah.
So when a new business opens, or within the first 3 years, it's always the hardest for a business to try to remain open. So what I did was I would set up a special date, I'd go out and get people to shop on that one day, and everybody comes to that shop on that one day, and they shop and they spend money, and it's a big influx of business. It all gets people to know the business because some people the business has been there 2 years and they come on Cash Mob Day. Yeah. I did it for Gold Coast Hobby right before. Unfortunately, it closed. But I did it for them. I did it for about 10 other places, and it was really. I did it for Jack Shack. Yeah, it was really a successful kind of.
Good, and we're going to continue those in the future.
I'm going to try to continue it. And the other thing great about it brought the community together, so everybody got to meet each other once again, getting off behind that computer and actually seeing each other eye to eye.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad I got to see you eye to eye today.
And I thank you for having me here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for coming. Deborah, thank you for coming. Legislator Lafzan, thank you for joining us on our show today. If there's anything we've learned today, it's that each person has a voice and a power to organize. If we come together and share our passion for community, we can make incredible change. And please, please always remember, support your small business community. With folks like this in our community, the path ahead looks bright. Speaking of the path ahead, I'm Jason Samel. Please join me next week as we speak with the mayor of Glen Cove, Tim Tenke, to discuss the future of Glen Cove and more for another edition of North Shore Now on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org.